we end the horror. Today, we solve FNAF. Wait, didn't we say this exact same thing 7 years ago? Internet, welcome to Game Theory, the show that reminds you that if you click the like button hard enough, it'll summon DJ Music Man to your neighborhood for a block party. Go ahead, try it. Hit that like button. Didn't work? Have you tried clicking subscribe? I hear that sometimes works too. I guess you must not be clicking hard enough. I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of not working hard enough, aren't you tired of just plain boring merch? The kind that you buy and sure, it looks cool, but it just sits there on your body not doing anything interesting. Well, what if your merch was actual clothing and what will be the first in our series of quest jackets? Roll an investigation check to see if you've got what it takes. Today we finish milking, I mean covering the major mysteries of Security Breach. And you know what? I think I solved it. Or at least I think I've solved most of it. 7 years ago I made this video, The Clue That Solves Five Nights at Freddy's, where we put together all the pieces to support Dream Theory, the concept that the first 4 games of the series were all a collection of nightmares happening inside the mind of a child. In that episode there were lots of points of evidence, but ultimately the conclusion hinged on one key design detail, the alarm that brought each night to a close at 6:00 a.m. A grandfather clock for 3 games and a digital clock for number 4. 3 games in the crying child's house where we see a grandfather clock, the 4th in a hospital right before he dies, which ironically enough is the one whose gameplay is happening in a recreation of the house. Oh, there's a reason this series is so difficult to talk about. Anyway, the reason I bring that video up is because today's theory works largely in the same way. Over the past few FNAF episodes, I've been trying to make heads or tails of Security Breach, pulling at what, to me, felt like the strongest thread. Gregory as the crying child, reborn in a robot body. Him reuniting with his brother Michael in the form of Glamrock Freddy and his sister Elizabeth in the form of Vanessa. And we've covered a lot of evidence trying to support that claim. The character's design, colors, the ice cream, the voice lines, robotic eyes, the satisfying narrative arc that it provides the game's 3-star ending. I mean, it's a lot. There are 2 episodes that are jam-packed full of discussion around exactly this. But today, I finally have my smoking gun. The clue that takes it from just a controversial theory to, at least in my mind, largely proven fact. Just like with the clocks and the dream theory, it's the one clue that is so specific, so intentional that it confirms that this was the main intent of the game. Until, of course, they decide to retcon it all due to bad audience feedback to keep the franchise going for another 7 years. Sorry guys, I hate to say it, but I think I'm unfortunately right this time. Gregory is a robot, and he's the crying child reborn. And by the end of today, I think you're gonna be convinced. And then from there, we're gonna talk about how all of that factors into the game's narrative and its final mystery, Patient 46. It all begins here, the Post-it room.
Huh, what? This is unexpected.
After exploring the sewers to decommission Chica, Gregory winds up here, a room full of glowing staff bot heads and lots of post-it reminders on literally every surface. I mean, this thing is a flashing neon sign that says important lore here. And yet in online discussions, it's been largely overlooked because it's kind of sandwiched in the middle of the game, overshadowed by the animatronic spaghetti monster ending. And even though I knew that something had to be hidden in here, trying to figure it out was like finding a needle in a haystack.
So what is this? What are we looking at here?
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah? Is it obvious, Matt? What is it?
You get to a certain age, and you gotta start taking notes.
Post-it notes?
Yeah, you just leave them around.
Okay.
But also there's robot heads.
So with that incredible insight, I spent literal hours off camera trying to look at every single post-it note to make sure that I had the full picture. And the answer I got was, do not do that. Learn from my mistakes. It took me so long, only to discover that the game files had been dug up and the post-it textures were just there in 3 simple images. Thanks to Just XFOT for uploading these to GitHub. Flush those hours of my life down the toilet. When you study these post-it textures, you actually realize that there are 3 phases to the post-it notes. One that's barely legible, another where the spelling and drawing improve slightly, and the final where they become nearly perfect. It looks like someone is trying to learn how to write and draw, slowly getting better over time. And it all begins here with a note written in binary. When you first enter the room, there's a cardboard box in the middle, which, if I were to guess, is Steel Wool trying to draw our attention to the most important post-it clues in what otherwise is a very crowded and busy looking room. On it, we get this binary string, which translates to, "Why is I?" die. That's it. The grammar, I think, is intentionally bad because this is a computer coming into consciousness, asking the question, why am I alive? And doing it written in binary, the language of machines, computers, robots. Elsewhere in the room is more binary that translates to hide. Whatever this thing is, it's scared and it's confused. It hides until it can better understand what or who it's meant to be. The other illegible phase 1 notes here are random flashing thoughts, the sky, kids, love, random glimpses of memories coming into focus. The phrase, I can feel it, is this creature coming into consciousness. And this right here, you are something family, which looks like Afton family, but it's pretty unclear. In short, it appears to be a machine that started speaking in binary, but as more and more memories start to take hold, it begins to write in normal alphabetic characters. When you dive into the notes from phases 2 and 3, though, things start to get much clearer. It's mainly images and text revolving around birthday parties, happy place, birthday time, family, a pile of presents, some cake, let's get snack, fun, 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 friends forever, pizza time. Nothing particularly earth-shattering for a series about pizza restaurants. But then there's one posted in the phase 3 notes that really stands out. The one clue that truly brings together the last 2 months of research. This thing is the linchpin. It's our smoking gun, my friends. And it all boils down to a present alongside 3 simple words, all for me. The party was all for me. Does that mean anything to you? Because it certainly does for me. You see, in the FNAF Survival Logbook, a seemingly innocuous workbook full of pizzeria-themed activities, you have 3 voices speaking through the pages. Michael Afton, writing his answers in red pen, the vengeful spirit Cassidy using lightly faded text, and the crying child, altering the physical text of the book. One conversation that happens between Cassidy and the crying child plays out like this. Cassidy says, the party was for you, and the crying child responds, it was for me. All for me. Suddenly, all the party imagery makes sense. The balloons, the cake, the kids. This is the bite victim, the crying child, coming into consciousness and remembering the birthday party that took his life. And using this context, suddenly everything in these notes takes on a whole new meaning. In the first phase of notes, we see a crudely drawn house with a set of arrows pointing towards what looks to be a strange set of doors. Maybe another building? Which admittedly doesn't make much sense unless this is the crying child, who, in FNAF 4, would walk down and to the right and then back up to go to Freddy's with his brother every single day. In the phase 3 notes, we see this close-up of a bear, which would have been the last thing that the crying child saw before his head got chomped. Blue, yellow, green, and red, those are the flashing lights above the Fredbear stage as he gets bit. Or, you know, maybe it's the balloons on the nearby table for someone who can't tell the difference between blue and purple. Even things like hide and no hide relate to the crying child's behavior throughout FNAF 4. He hides under tables, and he is constantly